The phone rang at 5:17 in the morning, and the voice on the other end said, "I know what happened to your brother." I had been retired from the police for 8 years, but hearing those words made me sit straight up in bed. My brother Daniel had vanished 25 years earlier. No body, no goodbye, just an empty truck and a family that slowly learned to stop asking questions. The caller told me to open the old case file and look at page 42. Then he hung up. I pulled the dusty box from my closet with shaking hands. Before I continue, if you enjoy real lifestyle family mysteries, subscribe to Family Betrayal, because this one still makes my stomach turn. And just so you know, the faces, photos, backgrounds, and scenes you see in this video are visual recreations meant only to help imagine the story. I opened the file. Page 42 was a report I had never seen before. My own family name appeared in the margin. I stared at it for nearly a minute. My father's name was written there. Then I saw something worse. My mother had signed the statement. I felt the room suddenly become too small. Why would my parents be connected to Daniel's disappearance? I kept rereading the page, hoping the ink would somehow change. It did not. My training told me to treat the evidence calmly, but I was no longer just a retired officer looking at an old case. I was a son, a brother, and a man who had spent half his life wondering what he had missed. I called my mother, but she did not answer. I drove to the old police station before sunrise, even though I knew the building had changed hands years ago. I still had one retired detective friend who might help me understand the file. His face changed when he saw page 42. He whispered, "You were never supposed to find this." That sentence hit harder than any accusation. He told me Daniel had been investigating stolen money from a local contractor, but someone inside our own family had warned the contractor. I wanted to believe there was another explanation. Then my friend handed me a second envelope. Inside was a photograph of Daniel standing beside our father on the night he disappeared. On the back, Daniel had written 4 words, "If I vanish, ask Dad." My heart sank. Our father had died 10 years earlier, taking whatever truth he knew with him. I went to my mother's house and asked her directly. She began crying before I even finished the question. Then she admitted something she had hidden for 25 years. Daniel had come home that night terrified. He said someone was threatening him. She told him to leave town until things cooled down. But she never told the police that part. I asked her why. She looked at me and said, "Because your father made me promise." I remember staring at her hands because they were trembling so badly. She said my father had been afraid that if the police learned everything, Frank would come after us. I asked why she had allowed me to believe Daniel simply abandoned us. I barely slept that night. For 25 years, I had blamed myself for not searching harder, but now I wondered if my own family had deliberately stopped me. The next morning, the mysterious caller contacted me again. This time he gave me an address. It was an abandoned storage building outside town. I went there with my former partner because I was done facing the truth alone. Behind a loose wall panel, we found a small metal box. Inside were Daniel's old wallet, several receipts, and a cassette tape labeled with the date he disappeared. My hands trembled as I held it. We found an old player and listened. Daniel's voice was weak but clear. He said he had discovered that our father had borrowed money from the contractor years earlier and was being blackmailed. But Daniel had also discovered something unexpected. Our father had secretly been protecting him. The person threatening Daniel was not our father. It was our uncle, Frank. Daniel had planned to expose Frank and leave town with evidence. Then the tape ended. I felt anger, relief, and grief all at once. My father had not betrayed Daniel. He had been trapped between 2 sons. But one question remained. If Daniel escaped that night, where had he gone? Then my former partner turned the cassette over. A phone number was written underneath it. We tried the number, but nobody answered. My partner searched old records and found it connected to a business Daniel had once mentioned in a letter. That discovery changed everything. The number belonged to a small repair shop 3 states away. We called, and the owner went silent when I said Daniel's name. Then he told me something I never expected to hear. Daniel had lived there under another name for years. He had died peacefully 6 months earlier, but before his death, he had left a letter for me. I drove there with my mother. Inside the letter, Daniel explained everything. He had disappeared because Frank had threatened our entire family. Our father helped him leave, believing distance was the only way to keep him alive. Daniel stayed away because he feared returning would put us in danger. He had watched from afar, knowing I had become a police officer and hoping I would someday understand why Dad stayed silent. The final line broke me. I never stopped loving you. I just thought staying gone was the only way to keep you safe. My mother cried beside me, and I finally understood why my father had carried that secret to his grave. Frank was later held accountable through the evidence Daniel had preserved. I never got the reunion I dreamed about, but I finally got the truth. If you were in my place, would you have forgiven my father or demanded answers sooner? Tell me in the comments. Share this story with someone who believes every family has secrets, and subscribe to Family Betrayal for more stories. I spent 25 years looking for my brother, only to discover that the hardest thing to find was the truth about the people who loved us.